Hey, so let's have a look at the contact form. So let's go into the editing a page. And then we've got a form here, which comes up if you add a block and click form. And then we'll just double click to edit it. So then we've got a few different options here over the top. So this is how we get the individual content coming through, which we'll come back to in a second. The design. So then this is how you can style certain things. You could move the button alignment. So inputting the highlight. So that, for example, this first input, you can do a few different options. Like then a light box is essentially the pop-up. So then in terms of that open form, I can change it here. So you could say, get in touch. And then that allows the form to then, on the click of a button, pop up. But I like to at least turn that off whilst I'm editing. And then if I want to put that in afterwards, I can do that. Then putting a background on it. The background could be changed here, but it's also relative to the theme that you are using as well. The stroke is the thickness of this line around the outside. So we could, again, change the color. We could change the thickness. We could dial this in or out. So you've got that to go and do. Then again, padding on the background is like that. Then again, we've got a few different options for doing things in like this, but obviously some relative to the color go and work. Some of these options are not working for my setup. Then we have this. So let's say that I did have this on an image, then I could have the background with a slight blur, or I could have blurred the individual elements, but not necessarily sure why you'd want to do that. But that's that one. And then inside storage. So this is where you go and send the form. So by default, it will put your own email address in, but you'd want to override this if you're doing this for another person's website. So clicking into this, updating this, and then just making sure that you hit save. Once that is done, if for any reason you have tried to edit this and then the save button doesn't come up, what I like to do is just give this a quick move. So I've moved something on the page and then I can hit save. So that is where to send the email. Then you do have some additional options. So you could link this up to Google Drive. You could link this up to Zapier as well and allow it to do other things. Or MailChimp, again, you can just connect that up. So you've got some additional options, but it can just send to one email address. So there's that set up. And then Google Recapture. So if you're not familiar with this, is the equivalent of I'm Not a Robot, where you'd normally have a little tick box, but this essentially is just doing it in the background. So it's an invisible version of this. So it's trying to help reduce the amount of spam that is coming through. So that's design and storage, but let's have a quick look at content. So again, you can just name the form, whatever you like, knowing that if you were to do this in the pop-up version, as in Lightbox, then that does get shown to the user. Then the button, again, you could change this to submit or something else. Then editing the fields. So this is then where you would choose all sorts of different options that are available to you. So it's then thinking what particular reason is the user going to fill this out and what is relative to it. So for example, this text is a small text box. So again, if you just want the user to write one sentence, then you might go and pick this. And then you might, again, just put the appropriate label on it. But if you want the user to write something slightly larger, so let's say you want them to send you a message, then you could use the bigger version because you're allowing the user to just write some more things in. You could mark this as required or not. So you've got that available to you. And then it's just thinking, what other things do you want to go and do? I'll just show you one quick thing. So in the phone number, so you could have country drop down as well. So if I did toggle that on, then this defaults to the country that is set in the website itself. So let me just quickly show you what I mean by this. Okay, so let's just go and press question mark on our keyboard, and we're going to look up the regional settings. So this at the moment is set to the UK, but let me go and set this. Why not? Let's just do this. And then, okay, maybe I've gone a bit too rogue. Let's go and pick Australia. There we go. So now you can see it defaults to be Australia. So that's obviously the user can come in and change it, but that's where it defaults and where it's set to. So again, if you happen to be building a website for another person in a different country, then it's just being mindful of that. So you have got lots of different options to go and choose from, knowing also the fact that this is a drag and drop editor. So I can just drag and reorder things. Again, thinking which is most logical for the user to come and fill out as well. And then just selecting the appropriate things. The other thing that you can do, let's say with this line, is if you want to break things up, then you can just click into here, delete off the label, but you have the line. And then you could, for example, have this, and then you might have a slightly longer piece in the form. And then let's say that I want to reuse that again. I could click in and duplicate it. So now I have my other line and I can put that. And then I might want to put a drop-down list in. And then by default, it puts this piece of text in. And then clicking in, you've got your different options. So you've got that available to you. One other thing that I quite like to go and do, let's say that a user needs to do, let's say, agree to some privacy policy things. So what you can do is just hijack the checkbox, and then you can delete off the first option and the second option. Then the first option could just be, I agree. And then the text box can be, and then obviously fill out the relevant form. I like text in here for the form. But what you can also do is you could add some HTML in here, should you want to, which could also include, let's say, hyperlinks or lots of other different things in terms of that. So you could add that inside the label. It doesn't work for the actual option itself, but you could have lots coming into here. Should you want to just, again, think outside the box for how to go and use the form itself. But you've got lots of different things going on. And then finally, the post submit. So what does that mean? So basically, after the user has sent you a message, you then have the option to do something. So you can either rewrite this and then change this from thank you to be something different, or you could send the user somewhere. So you could send them to a different page where you have then done something more styled rather than just having this pop-up box appear on the screen. So then you could send them to a different page on the site, or you could do a bunch of other things. For example, send them a file to download. So that's what's happening inside of post submit. And then you could add some code should you want to, but for this example, we're just trying to keep it fairly straightforward. So that is the contact form. Then again, if the user has filled this out, it comes into the back end of the site. So inside of contacts, should the user have filled this out, not only does that email address get a copy, but also there is a copy sent here. So again, you can just keep a record of that. And have that showing up and see the message. But let's also look at the newsletter block as well. So here is our newsletter block. We have just added this from inside of here. So that's newsletter. And then here is our newsletter. So again, we can just change the title up the top here. Here's the description that we can come in and change. And then the text at the bottom, like we can change the sign up. You could say, so you can make it whatever you like. Then let's say inside of we want to ask the name. So you can put the name in there. Again, with the post submit, you can do exactly the same thing like we've demoed in the contact form. So you've got those different options available to you. So we have that. Then in terms of floating and stacking, this is the layout. So stacking, again, sounds obvious. Stacked it one on top of each other, or floating, change the alignment of it, put a background on that, change the color, change the stroke around the outside. A lot of these are fairly the same as we've seen in the contact form. Change the amount of padding on it. Same with the blend mode and blur. And then the storage. So you can do one of two things. You could either start using Squarespace's email campaigns, and then you could link it up like that, noting that the email campaigns is an add-on to your original subscription. Or you could send it elsewhere and have these, again, come into any of these three options and then just have that data sent across. So, for example, in MailChimp, it will just get added into its own contacts as well. So those are the contact form and the newsletter. Hope you've enjoyed that.